These are wild times we're living in. A Florida jury has awarded a $329 million verdict against Tesla in a fatal 2019 accident where the driver, who was driving a Tesla vehicle and was on autopilot, crashed into another SUV, killing one person and severely injuring another. The accident happened on April 25th, 2019, and George McGee was driving his 2019 Model S at roughly 62 miles per hour through a T intersection in Key Largo, Florida. He was distracted by his dropped cell phone. So he dropped his cell phone and proceeded to attempt to pick it up, failed to respond to stop signs and flashing lights, eventually colliding with a parked Chevrolet Tahoe. So Leon, 22, and her boyfriend, Dylan Angelo, were standing next to their parked SUV when the Tesla crashed into them. Leon was unfortunately killed, while Angelo suffered serious injuries. Now, here's the thing. If this does actually stand, I mean, Tesla does intend to appeal this decision, right? But if this verdict does actually stand, this will really open up a can of worms, not only for Tesla, but for all automotive manufacturers. All vehicles who advertise so-called safety features or driver assist technologies will and could potentially be now on the hook for any accident or injury associated as a result of driving their vehicles and their safety measures or safety technologies not performing as intended. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper into the story and just and figure out just exactly what happened here, right? So, first of all, the jury's verdict. The jury found Tesla 33% responsible for the crash. McGee was found responsible for the remaining 67%, but as a non-defendant, he will not be required to pay his share. This verdict makes a rare instance of a jury finding Tesla partially liable in a fatal crash involving its autopilot system, with previous cases often being dismissed or settled out of court. According to CNN and CBS News, the plaintiff's lawyers highlighted augmented crash video and data suggesting Autopilot was aware of the obstacles but failed to react, shutting down only when the crash was unavoidable. Now, here's the thing. I personally own a Tesla Model Y, right? Now, the first thing that comes to mind is this lack of distinction between full self-driving supervised and autopilot. Now, I'm going to assume here, best case scenario, that the driver was using full self-driving supervised. 2019 now is a while ago, and full self-driving was nowhere near as good as it is now. But I can assure you that if an obstacle comes in the way of, or if the full self-driving senses an obstacle in the way, it will stop or at least brake hard at the very minimum. Now, in 2019, full self-driving was notorious for what's called phantom braking. So even something like a shadow, like a shadow from a tree, a shadow from a moving vehicle, a not well lit enough roadway, as is often the times when you're entering underneath a bridge, that would induce hard braking. So I find it right now, before diving further into the story, I find it very hard to believe that the full self-driving at 2019, which was overly cautious, so cautious that I myself actually did not use it because of the phantom braking issue. I'd be driving down at highway speeds and there'd be a shadow and the car would brake hard. Now, one way to override full self-driving, and you will see where this leads to as we progress into the story here. You override the full self-driving by pressing on the accelerator, right? Or you can disable manually the full self-driving by up pushing the stalk. When the vehicle were to phantom brake, the way to override the hard brake is by pressing on the accelerator. when your foot is on the accelerator, the full self-driving does not brake. As you are the driver, it is still supervised and you are overriding the full self-driving system, right? Now I don't know whether they're using autopilot and full self-driving, those two terms interchangeably, but to me that is the most confusing part. Now, as we dive deeper into the story here, Tesla has stated its intention to appeal the decision, not surprising, all right? Now let's skip down here to the implication of the verdict. This could lead to more lawsuits and potentially higher settlement costs for Tesla in the future cases. Now for some reason they are isolating Tesla in here, but if this verdict stands, which I doubt it will, because of what we're going to see later in the story. If this verdict does stand, this not only has deep implications for Tesla, but for all automakers, period, right? Because they all become liable for the quote-unquote safety claims they advertise, right? The verdict highlights ongoing concerns about safety and marketing of Tesla's autopilot system. This is actual rubbish because, again, I think they're using autopilot and full self-driving supervised interchangeably, those two terms, but actually they are two very different systems. And autopilot is basically an advanced adaptive cruise control. The full self-driving supervised is the system that is capable of driving the vehicle, like actually driving the vehicle using AI, right? So already the full self-driving supervised from Tesla is already proven to be at least 10 times safer than human driving. At least 10 times safer. So this is absolute rubbish, and it is actually very misleading. It's very misleading. The ongoing attacks toward Tesla is just mind-boggling when it is really the only company that, in my opinion, I can see truly advancing safety for drivers around the world, right? Now, how did McGee override the autopilot system? Because over here it says the Tesla's defense and planned appeal. Tesla argues the verdict is wrong and only works to set back automotive safety, according to Fox Business. The company maintains that McGee was entirely at fault for speeding, being distracted, and overriding the autopilot system. Overriding the autopilot system. Now, this makes me think now, how did McGee override the autopilot system? Now, let's get this straight now, right? The term is full self-driving supervised. It is not a full self-driving technology. It cannot fully drive you. You have to supervise the vehicle as this software suite is still in its beta stages. It's very good, but it is not perfect, and you must supervise this. Now, the fact that he was not supervising as intended, in my opinion, puts him at 100% at fault because it is supposed to be supervised. So the very fact that this accident was able to come to fruition means that the driver was in fact not supervising the vehicle as it drove itself. Now, this is most likely the case for all accidents involving vehicles, right? Somebody is distracted enough where there is an enough lapse of attention to driving that an accident happens, right? This is exactly what happened in this case. It is no different. Now, it says over here, right? It says over here that overriding the autopilot system. So Tesla also, okay, and we'll get back to that. Tesla also stated its intention to appeal the decision, citing substantial errors of law and irregularities at trial. They also suggest the punitive damages are likely to be reduced on appeal due to Florida law limiting such awards in product liability cases. So now, how did this driver override the Tesla and I'm going to go use the terms that are present in this article, autopilot. How did he override the autopilot system? Well, like I mentioned earlier, when you press on the accelerator, you do override, you have the ability to override the full self-driving, or in this case, they're using autopilot, the autopilot system, right? Just like how it was very common for the car to phantom brake while on autopilot, braking hard for a shadow when there is no reason to brake, and that itself may have posed a potential risk to safety due to the abrupt and hard braking at highway speeds potentially, right? You have the ability, and because you're supposed to be supervising, you have the ability to override that and say, no, this is not a necessary brake. It's not necessary to brake over here. Override and continue going at normal speeds. You press on the accelerator, the car moves forward, right? Now, you wouldn't know this unless you are the owner of a Tesla and regularly use full self-driving, or in this case, they call it autopilot. I'm still confused about this. I don't know why they're calling it autopilot. It's not autopilot. It's full self-driving, FSD supervised, right? And in 2019, the FSD supervised suite was notorious for phantom braking. And it is what really took me a long time to trust the full self-driving suite, the full self-driving software from Tesla, because currently it is nearly perfect. But it took me a while to actually begin to trust the software after earlier experiences with phantom braking and etc., which is all normal for, early releases of anything, right? In this case, it was software, right? Currently, it is nearly perfect. Now, how did McGee override the autopilot system, right? I wanted to know. During the fatal 2019 crash, George McGee overrode Tesla's autopilot system by applying the accelerator pedal while it was engaged. Now, this, in my opinion, is indebatable. If they have this data, and I'm assuming they do, since they know this took place. If they have this data, this is indebatable, and it is quite frankly, automatically, the case is dead. In my opinion, the case is dead. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. But this is my opinion. He overrode the autopilot system. I'm using their terminology again. He overrode the autopilot system by depressing the accelerator. The car will not stop, even though it intends to stop, even though it wants to stop. The final decision maker is the driver in this case. So the accelerator was depressed. That means the car is not stopping. There could be a brick wall in front of the car and the car will not stop. Just like as if you're manually driving your own vehicle and you maintain the accelerator, even if even if there's a wall in front of you, guess what? You are hitting that wall. Unless you take your foot off the gas, you press the brake, you are hitting that wall. Same thing applies here. Same thing applies here. Even though the Tesla was on autopilot, I'm using the terms again. Even though it was on autopilot, the fact that the driver had the accelerator pedal engaged means that the car is not going to stop no matter what, right? Until it finally hits something that's going to make it stop. In this case, unfortunately, it was another vehicle with one fatality and one with serious injuries. This is just an all-around unfortunate event. And it really does make me upset. It makes me upset. These safety systems are in place, right, to reduce human-made errors while driving, which are driving a car is the leading cause, is one of the leading causes of serious injury and mortality in the United States. Humans just really aren't great at driving, in my opinion. How many times do you see you're passing a vehicle and you sometimes think that the driver is intoxicated or under the influence of something because of the way that driver is driving the vehicle so erratically, right? And you go and pass them and you see their heads looking down at the phone or looking down or just clueless. Humans cannot drive, in my opinion. And these systems like the Tesla Autopilot, the Tesla Full Self-Driving suite have already proven to be at least 10 times safer than a normal human driver. The Full Self-Driving suite of Tesla uses a combination of 8 to 9 cameras that are constantly looking and aware in 360 degrees. It never gets distracted. It never takes its eyes off the road. And that alone will improve safety while driving on the road, right? Humans rarely can see 360 degrees 24/7 while they're driving their car. And humans, we easily get distracted. So, in my opinion, long story short, cutting it here, in my opinion, it was 100% the driver's fault. Number one, the full self-driving or autopilot, whatever term you want to use, I don't know what's going on here, whatever term you want to use, is a supervised version. The very fact that the vehicle crashed into another vehicle or any object tells me, in my opinion, that the driver was not supervising as instructed. And this is how all accidents actually happen. The driver is distracted. One or both of the drivers are distracted, and boom, a collision occurs between another vehicle, a pedestrian, an object, and unfortunately, many times, at the bare minimum, serious injuries do occur. So anyway, I'm going to cut it right there. This is pretty insane that the jury was able to reach such a verdict. In my opinion, it really doesn't make any sense. And I'm sure once Tesla does appeal this, big changes to the verdict, if it even withstands a little bit, are coming. If you like what you saw, please give this video a like, share it with as many people as possible. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to my channel. Use my referral code in the description below if you're looking to buy a Tesla. The tax incentives will no longer be available after September 30th. Thanks for watching.